Alrighty then.
All right.
Right. So each of this week's readings and videos covered aspects of one or more of the topics of ecology, story, and responsibility, or place of humankind in the world. How do these three topics connect across the readings and videos? So I basically said that I think all three topics connect, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and that one can't be understood without the other. Like ecology helps us to understand the workings of the physical nature of the world and how Native Americans view death and the afterlife. And there's a connection between the afterlife and nature. The stories they tell, um, the stories tell a relationship between nature and the reality and the afterlife and our responsibility in the world, and that our responsibility is to communicate with nature and learn and teach for the betterment of the future and nature. At least that's what I got from the Winona video, the video from Winona LaDuke.
Yeah. Well, I focused like one by one. I started with the reading.
Mm-hmm.
I thought what it was asking was like, how does that specific reading connect with all these three topics?
Yeah, that's what I kind of did.
Whoops.
Okay, so
Okay.
share what you got.
So I put the use of tribal is essential to the ecology story and the place of humankind in this world. Ecology focus on the way one organism relates to another. And then I think it's pronounced house or hose. What's his name?
Um,
Howe.
Howe, probably how.
Howe's document. He focuses on the lives of humans during colonial time, and that allows for a deeper understanding of how the concept of story influences the relation between humans from two different parts of the world. Hold on, let me scroll down. A story is meant to create a society, and in the case of Howe's reading, it created an unintended destruction, which now influences them to carry this analysis forward and to inform a new generation of stories. Story here is a theatrical play, a message of words and not writing. It's an adaptation to the present with influence of the sacred past.
I
That's
got
how I
it.
feel like it relates to, like that specific document relates to all of this. Because they used the concept of tribal and they tied all three concepts together. I don't
Yeah,
know.
under that kind of umbrella term.
Yeah, but yeah, I
Okay.
don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my head.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
so you didn't get to kind of the part about what responsibility it places on humankind. I guess
Well,
it's like the third part of that question.
well, I mean, I didn't really like elaborate on it, but I intended for it to be answered by the whole thing of like, okay, he he goes through history in
Mhm.
House document, and now he's using that history and informing of these different perspectives. So these new generations, that's the responsibility that we have. We have to inform these new generations so they create a different generation of stories, a different generation of values, because the whole point of story is to create a society influenced by the culture that's being like passed forward. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, and I think I may go on to say this later, but they kind of use that story as like a vessel to pass on information to that next generation that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Myra? What do you think?
Um, okay, well, I wrote a lot, but at
Well,
least for
share it
the
with you.
readings, I said I kind of just picked one topic for each one, and for the tribalography one, I said that in the reading there was the big focus of story and like storytelling and the Native Americans sharing their narratives, and how with that the Native Americans were able to show the colonizers settling on their land and help them realize the importance of unity with amongst each other, and how by the Native Americans sharing their stories, um, the the community, I mean, how they were able to share the importance of unity that learned from their ancestors, how that was able to make a big influence to the colonizers to realize unity, and how that kind of helped them, even though maybe not in the like a positive way, but it still helped them realize how unity was able to help them move on forward with what they were planning on doing. Did we talk about chapter 10 yet?
Not yet. Well, I was
Okay.
about to talk about it, but go ahead.
Oh, what did I write? I said for chapter 10, I wrote that the Native Americans' belief of death connected to human responsibility and humankind, because they shared that despite what occurred in their life, whether it was good or bad, they didn't view it, they didn't view death in a bad way or weren't afraid of it, like the Christians were, and rather they lived their life, and whatever happened, they knew that when they died, they were gonna eventually like give back to their land and provide back to their environment and kind of honor it. And in that way, they were responsible in their life, of just living their life, because at the end of the day they knew they were gonna give back. And yeah, they didn't think of it in a bad way anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with you. And adds to like the whole thing of, oh, I got scared. My dog moved in the back. I was like, what the hell is that? It adds to the concept of like ecology, how like one organism influences the other. And I think the fact like how they develop their story and how they develop their society, like it's ingrained in them to think about not only themselves, even relating to like the TED talk with I think her name was Layla.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like she says the same thing, like instead of looking at ourselves as the earth being better without us, like we can look at ourselves as a tool. And it made me also think about the responsibility part, and relating back to the chapter and the talk about death that Myra was talking. um it's the honoring of their elders. I think that's, I don't know, they're just all integrated, like knowing how one organism affects the other, like while you're living, is important. But having that story of like, okay, when you die, you have this response, or when a person dies, you have this responsibility of honoring their spirit, of honoring their life, even if they're not humanly, I mean, not like bodily and physically present. Um, I don't know. To me, it's fascinating, honestly. But
Yeah. Um, and I think that's where you're reaching into like what it means to be in the broader web of life and within the life cycle, and um, the ecology of it, and how our relationship with nature kind of determines what our afterlife will be. That our relationship with nature, or not ours, but Native Americans' relationship with nature, is more open ended and accepting, and isn't so, hypercritical on, what sins you committed, or, you know, what you have to do to gain that entry, so to speak.
yeah, it's almost like you're like the way Christianity was like presented here. It's almost like they didn't enjoy life. Like they were so focused on what was going to happen in death that they forgot
Mhm.
to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All right. Do we want to move on to the second question?
sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do each of the readings and videos have to say about the term story? How is the term story used in each one? So, this one, this is the one I had the issue on, with
Okay.
kind of identifying it within the God is Red chapter. Um, but I did break down kind of the other ones. So, in the tribology article, um, to me, story was something that gives meaning. The article states that that meaning is entirely based on the person telling the story. It explains that stories are to be, kind of dramatic, dramatized and farced, and told in a way that makes the story sound better to make the point across at the time. So a story can be adaptable. It's adaptable because it needs to give meaning. Um, and then Layla uses her stories as kind of tools and strategies in order to promote change and explain indigenous traditions and practices. Um, it promotes an exchange of knowledge and a way to connect reality with nature and a way to invoke understanding. Winona LaDuke, which is I don't remember where she was from, but Winona LaDuke uses her stories as a form of protest, uh, teaching how to live. She teaches us how to value the old and their stories as well, with a deep consideration of the future and how to survive. And then I guess my guess at the Goddess Red chapter would that they use it as a vessel to communicate to us the meaning of indigenous process and the ways of thinking.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. The use of story in the tribalography.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like quote, it was even highlighted in the story. I mean, in the reading. It said native stories are power. They create people. They author tribes. America is a tribal creation story. Um, um, it's used, like you said, it has to be very dramatized to get that message across, but it's used as a like it conveys a specific purpose. Like it's intentional. It's created so it informs and not necessarily like it's either it could that story could be fictional or non-fictional, but it's meant to inform, it's meant to invoke something in the audience and not just how do I say it? Like I don't want to just say it's informational because it's not just informational. Like you can read something that's informative and not have anything invoking you. But it's that it's just it's supposed to provoke something in you. And that's how it's used in that tribalography part. And the one with Lila, how does she use story? Well, she's telling a story. Literally, she's telling a story of the past. She's telling history. And she's using that to try to solve modern problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is another way to invoke a difference in society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think, Myra?
Yeah, for the Lila video, I said, yeah, like basically how you said right now that the term story is used, she's sharing a story. And in the video, she shared kind of the responsibility we have and how back then Native Americans took care of their food forests and how since they took care of it, it lasted, well, that they um how to say that they took care of these forests for thousands and thousands of years and it never like died out, and it was because how much they protected it and prioritized it and continued to improve them. And she like shared the importance to giving back and how this not only like helped them but also the environment and the animals as well to continue providing for us to survive.
Yeah, I think her main point there was like instead of having it like human centered, I think she used that like our systems be human centered, just be centered at creating life. And she used her story of historical events, of historical practices to get that message across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's very eloquent in the way she presented it.
What about the Winona video?
Yeah, I think let me see what I wrote. Yeah, in that video, I just kind of like said like emphasized the story because in the video she played another video of a tribe and how they're trying to maintain their their rights and how like they don't want it to die out and how it's important to continue maintaining it. And it says something about um one of the peoples in the tribe said if their rice dies, they die as well. And I talked about how by sharing this story, it kind of like emphasizes how 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 their tribe and like us as well, we depend a lot on these natural food sources. And again, like how in order to survive, we need to maintain these food sources. And without them, we can't survive. And if we don't take care of them, they will just continue to destroy, and it will just lead to destroying our food supply and our ecosystems as well. And yeah, and it ends up just destroying and killing our earth. And yeah, we're not able to survive in that environment.
Okay. Because I know the Winona LaDuke video kind of talks about that as well, just a little bit. They kind of have a little bit of overlap where, like, taking care of nature is the most important thing, and kind of going back to how things used to be instead of where they're at now. But yeah. All right, so let's move on to question 3. So the concept of story is central both to American Indian studies and many Native North American cultures. Yet the Western definition of story is inaccurate, dismissive, and acts as an extension of colonial oppression. What does the term story mean in the American Indian studies sense of the word? I think this one was pretty open-ended. I think this one kind of allowed us to kind of play with the answer a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think the term story in terms of Native Indian studies is kind of like I mentioned, it's an all-encompassing thing that features many areas. Native stories are how history is not told but explained, and describes how everything in nature can be and is related. Story means to have a comprehensive knowledge and understanding of the way the natural world works, and to use that knowledge to spread meaning and understanding. So it's an active thing that is done. It's not something that's done in passively.
That makes sense. So then I don't, and now I kind of like, I don't know if my definition, because I agree with what you said, but I don't know if it encompasses that as well.
It doesn't have to.
True, true. But since I agreed with it, I was like, maybe I could like rewrite it. But this is what I have.
Yeah, what do you got?
Story is creation of events, whether that be fictional or non-fictional, for the purpose of creating a society with peace and rejoice, for functionality of all life and not just humans, to repurpose the human purpose in the eye of Euro-Western ideals, and to transcend it into something more responsible. That's what I have for my meaning.
No, I think that's a really good definition of it as well, and touches upon some things that I didn't think about. I think the kind of overlapping part of it, or the part that stood out to me the most, was your comment about kind of how it builds community and this kind of culture.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of their storytelling does, is it builds culture and builds, and from that culture stems their society.
Yeah, it's like a I live by this saying of like if you value your word, what you say, like you're careful with what you say. And I feel like they very much live by this. Like they value their culture, they value their word so much that they'll create this imagery and this not necessarily fantasy, but like metaphors, and they'll use all these tools just to make sure that you get the right message, or that you get like this encompassing love that they like stand for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I find very, I don't know, I'm very like hippie-ish right now.
No, I got you.
Yeah, but yeah, Like that's what I think they use story for, or that's what it means to transcend and to reform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept it very simple, but I just kind of said what I think the term story means in regards to American Indian studies is a way of like historical storytelling and an influential layout for others, because how Native Americans use their stories like passed down from their past generations and ancestors, and how they use them to live a better life and grow from their past and live in the moment and improve, and how they also use the stories to share with others even outside their culture, to learn and grow off of too, and to bring unity with others and expand our society and change for the better of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we all kind of have the same understanding that it's something that brings together and spreads, it brings together culture and community, but also can spread knowledge to those and influence to those outside of that community and that society.
Yeah.
It's just something I kind of heard a few times, I think.
Yeah, that seems like the most repetitive phrase, community.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate though that like in the chapter of God is Red, like or it was the God is, I think I don't know which one it was. It was either God is Red or the How one.
Mm-hmm.
Like how it was a specific tribe in like the Northeast that was trying to teach or that was trying to share their views of life, and that's what influenced the US Constitution, but it was almost like it backfired on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because lands got destroyed, lands were taken. So yeah.